How's it going, everybody? I wanted to give you my thoughts on Battleworld and what's next for Battleworld, because after this last iteration with what I'm going to say are actual improvements, it still left a lot to be desired, but to me it showed a vast amount of potential. So in this video, that's what we're going to jump into, and let's start with a cold hard truth. I don't expect anything to change for the null Battleworld. I highly doubt any more resources are going to be put into the null Battleworld. I don't think we'll see changes to the nodes. I don't think we'll see changes to the rules. I don't think we'll see improvements to gameplay mechanics or anything like that, like we're going to talk about in this video. I think it just is what it is. The one thing that we could see change is going to be what I think was a mistake, and that the damage cap is still being applied on null. So we do see here from the boss rules, no single attack can inflict over 3% of boxes max health. That wasn't happening, right? The maximum damage we were able to do to null during the battle rule, I think, was 3 million with Astral, 2 million without Astral. That's not 3% of his life. If his life is, as stated at the bottom, 861 million, and give some change, right? Then the 3% would equate to 25 million, which is a big change and honestly would vastly increase the enjoyability of the fight, because then we could actually see some benefits from some of the things that are currently missing, which we're going to talk about in this video. So that is the only change I think we could see come to Battleworld. But let's talk about things that were definitely improved. The zones. The zones did get a huge improvement. We were not facing year one enemies. They hit hard, and it wasn't nearly as prescriptive. So if we head on over, this was Zone 2, Zone 2, Node 1, City Villains, and we see some of the newest characters of the game. We have Hercules, we have Jean Grey, that's it. Then we have a lot of older characters. But here's the thing, on this node, if you were to let Hercules hit you, even with like a maxed out Sinister 6, like I have, which did make the node pretty trivial, he would wreck you. That Hercules would absolutely demolish you on the second wave, I believe it was, if you let him attack. But if not, then it kind of wasn't an issue, right? They were so less prescriptive in the sense that we had global hero, then global villain. Then we had city hero, then city villain, cosmic hero, cosmic villain. Like, it was way less prescriptive. And those were really good improvements. But I think there's more improvements that still need to be made. Like I was saying, with my team, it was still basically full auto. All the days, it was very easy just to walk through the nodes. It took maybe 10 minutes per zone. Washed my hands with it, said, it is what it is. I'll get my null shreds at the end of this, and we'll see what happens. So here's what I think Battleworld needs to come with next. We need to expand the node depth. 3 waves simply isn't enough to get the creative juices flowing. It's not enough to tax your roster in such a way that you're actually going to hit a speed bump with a team like Sinister 6. So it's going to be 50 waves, endless waves. I think they need a cap on it, so I think 50 waves is like an arbitrary number enough to go off, and it needs to have scaling difficulty. So what do I mean by that? I mean, a Hercules on wave 1 should be maybe 50% the power of the Hercules on wave 5. That way, I'm going to get to a point where I will die, because, and I think this is an uncomfortable thing that some Marvel Strike Force enjoyers aren't used to yet, we shouldn't be expecting to clear everything all the time. That's not something that happens in a lot of games. In most games, you do the best you can do. You get awarded points for doing the best that you can do, but you don't actually ever beat it. And that's okay. That's kind of fun, because instead of then hitting the cap and say, okay, I just have to do that every single time Battleworld comes out, I need to beat this node 100%. This time I beat it 60. Next time I could beat it 70% of it. Next time I could beat 80% of it. Oh, look, a new battle just started. And we start all over from there. So I think a scaling difficulty, while increasing the amount of nodes we get overall, would be really healthy for the mode. But beyond that, I think that continuous combat, like Dark Dimension, would benefit this mode tremendously. So let's say that on the City Villain node, there was 50 waves. And with my Sinister 6, I was able to get through 8 of those waves. That's great. Then I should be able to go in with my second attack, my Hive Mind team, and start at wave 8, work my way through maybe 9, maybe 10, because there's a lot harder by then, and Symbiotes don't have nearly as much, snowball potential against higher statted characters. But I get to use another team and I get to push a little further. And then my third team, whatever the case would be, I get to push just a little bit further once again. That endless combat, I think, helps you use your entire roster, enjoy the fact that you have your roster built up, and it lets you push past boundaries. So maybe I level up my Sinister Six, I max out my Sinister Six. The farthest I can get them is to wave 8. Well, I don't have to wait for the next progression path. To push that node further, I can start building into a different city villain team. And that, I think, is a much cooler, much healthier, fun idea on being able to push endless or 50 wave scaling difficulty content in a much fun way. But what we've been talking about so far is the standard gameplay we're used to. We're talking about my 5 characters against whatever 10 or less characters on the enemy field with recognizable mechanics. But what about new mechanics? We saw a taste of this, I believe it was on the 3rd day on the Herald node. There was a vampire node that had a little bit of interest in it, but didn't go quite far enough. So this is that vampire node here, and we do see 5 versions of all the enemies, and that's pretty cool. And if we go to the rules, it gave us a cool change in gameplay. When a vampire minion is defeated, a replacement minion spawns until 5 of that minion have been defeated. Each successful minion is stronger than the last, so kind of that scaling difficulty we were talking about a second ago. Each minion type cleared awards a small victory point bonus, and defeating Oath immediately triggers the victory. Now, I can't verify this because I didn't mix match my info with other players, but I was told that it didn't matter how many vampires you cleared. As long as you killed Oath, everybody got the same thing. Everybody got the same amount of Battleworld credits, and it was all kind of for nothing. But this is the type of unique gameplay interactions I would like to see. Obviously, not bugged, working as intended, but also be, 50 waves or endless instead of just having 5, because that was really easy to get to. And I think that is the magic spot where Battleworld can sub in. It can have one node where it is our regular gameplay content, where it's just, kind of like a team deathmatch sort of thing, where it's my characters against theirs. We know how things interact. We're used to it from every other game mode, where it's just my kit versus your kit. Let's go at it, right? And then a second node, like the vampire one. But there's so many things that you could do besides just that vampire option that was just discussed. I was in chat and we were just kind of brainstorming, having fun, thinking about things. And I was like, what about a node where there was, a crossbones on the node, and he had 10 charges. And if you didn't hit him 10 times before he got his turn, he exploded. And no matter what your buffs were, no matter if you had billions of safeguard and billions of death proofs, it just killed you. So the goal was to hit crossbones 10 times. That crossbone would then blow himself up instead of blow you up. And then 2 crossbones would come in and he would be protected by whatever other characters are on the node at the time, whatever wave drops in. And you got victory points for every single crossbones you defeated. But at a certain point, you were just overwhelmed and that would end the node. Well, this would be really interesting because then we'd have 2 dynamics. We'd have a node where technically you could kind of get the theoretical max. This crossbow node, maybe the max we can get with our available roster is 9 crossbones killed. But then in the regular gameplay node, we have endless scaling content, or 50 waves, where you're never realistically going to beat like wave 25. That creates a really cool dynamic between how scoring would work. But I think there is a blemish on Battleworld that could make this idea even more fun. And that blemish to me is the Astral node. To me, the Astral node is no more than just a raid node. It really is. It's a raid node hidden in what's supposed to be a new exciting content, okay? If you don't have Astral, you're just not going to beat the nodes on the higher difficulties. There's different enemies in the higher difficulties apparently as well. And that's fine. That's okay, right? What's not fine is that when you are on the highest difficulty and you build this team up, because they are good in other game modes, which I think should definitely continue, it's a sim. It's not fun. I think you remove the Astral node and instead you make the Astral tag universal to this iteration of Battleworld. So when we have global hero, global villain, cosmic hero, cosmic villain, city hero, city villain, it's and Astral for every single one of them. So then when I'm faced with the endless gameplay one, I could be like, okay, if I use Astral, they're so good in Battleworld that I could probably squeeze out up to wave like 17. Like that'd be crazy because Astral's that good. Or maybe the gameplay one here is going to require a lot of maximum health damage or a lot of buff removal. Astral's really good at that. Or maybe revives are going to have some sort of play in the game. Okay, well, Astral will be really good there. So you get to pick where you use Astral for that day, as opposed to a really boring raid node. And then for the next Battle World, people are thinking Onslaught. Some people are saying Malice, which is a kind of the evil version of Invisible Woman. But then it wouldn't be Astral anymore. But Astral would still just be a great team in the other game modes like they currently are. And finally, the scoring in Battleworld was so nonsensical. As you see here, we threw up, was this 3.4 million points out of the needed 100. It was so unnecessary, and I know the argument came down to where there were milestone points. You needed, I believe it was 12 million to get the maximum reward here. From the 3 zones, we got 8 million, and then we actually got an additional 16 million points from just the Null boss fight. So the victory points we got in the zones themselves made absolutely no sense. They need to change that. I think the individual zones need milestone rewards. So instead of this being a overall milestone rewards for doing the 3 zones plus Null, I think each zone needs an individual milestone, where as we climb up, we're getting better rewards. That's where they could dish out that purple ISO that was on the Astral node. It just makes more sense to me. I played around with a lot of things in my head here. Like, what if we hit certain benchmarks per zone, and that would say, give us a buff heading into Null, or maybe even nuke one of the Null mechanics that he has. We'll talk about that in a second. But this kind of seemed to be the most simple way to code. And honestly, I think that's fine. Right? I don't think Scopely can realistically stress himself to change the coding that much. This is a really easy thing that they can do. Just add rewards and a milestone feature for each zone. I think that's fine. I think that would be really enjoyable. It would make alliances want to push those higher milestones to get more purple ISO, to get whatever's in those milestones, right? It could be Null shards, purple ISO, whatever the case may be. That would be something that would drive players to be more engaged with the mode, have more fun, theory craft it, and enjoy it. And one of the things where one of the current structural aspects that would make everything I just talked about possible, you know, endless content where we want to use our 3 teams, 2 nodes per day, is the fact that currently Battleworld is a once a month activity. And I actually think that Battleworld should probably remain a once a month activity. I don't think we need a new game mode that's 5 times a week to go on with War and go on to Crucible. This sort of momentous event that happens once a month fuels excitement for it. It fuels theory crafting in between. It lets us get hyped, like almost how Scourges, we used to get hyped for those. I feel like this is filling a lot of those needs at its current structure. But you also want to make things more exciting and more enticing as we go. Let's talk about the boss fight. So the improvements they did to the boss fight from the first iteration of Battleworld, none. You could argue, and I will not do this argument in depth, that them fixing bugs was an improvement. Them fixing the Astral bug where it got around the max health, like it's technically an improvement because it kind of adds a little bit of integrity on what would be a leaderboard, even though there's not one. Them fixing the bleed bug, I think, was horrible for the game mode, and it actually made people... I think people would have enjoyed Battleworld as a whole so much more if there wasn't the blemish of what happened to Null afterwards. I think the zones, the nodes themselves, were so much more enjoyable than the last time, but that was insanely overshadowed by how boring Null was. And Null was so boring. So let's talk about how they can fix the boss fights in this game. And hopefully we're going to have new boss fights. Like I said, I don't think they're going to change anything structurally or mechanically around this Battleworld. It's about the next Battleworld boss, whether it be Onslaught or Malice or Annihilus or Darkheart or, God, the Beyond or Molecule Man. There's so many cool big bads they can pull from. First things first, and hopefully this will be the one thing they change with this Battleworld, is that the damage cap has to go. Because there was a damage cap, it stopped anything from mattering. It didn't matter if you had defense down on the boss while you had offense up, you had a hit on him. Didn't matter. You were doing 2 million damage. That's trash. It's garbage. It's gotta go. Some of our characters, Storm, for instance, I was asking the chat, how hard is Storm hitting for you guys? People were saying, At max charges, at level 105, she can hit for 30 million. Like, that'd be a really cool thing to build into the boss and hit him for 30 million. Currently, with the damage cap on, besides Astral, it didn't really matter which team you were using. You were going to cap out between 75 million and like 95 million. And it didn't really matter which team you brought, as long as they were beefy enough and they could do 2 mil damage on every single one of their hits. They were pretty much going to equal out at the same phase, and that sucks. That means that the buffs and debuffs didn't matter. But the next boss cannot be what Null is. It cannot be anti-theory crafting, zero control. For Null, every time you hit him, he gets speed bar. Every time he gets a rage stack, he gets 10% speed set. He cannot be Terminator rebound. So we have no control over the number one factor in this game, which is speed. That sucks. I think we should be able to rewind him. He shouldn't get nearly as much speed bar per hit. His speed stat per rage, that's the one thing I'm kind of like, okay, that makes some sense, because there needs to be an enrage timer for this boss because there's no actual timer. I'm actually think that's a really healthy and good thing, because we don't want fights going on forever. We don't want one team to be soloing a boss that's not really hype. That's not fun. It's not exciting, right? And let me know if you agree or disagree with me on that one. It just felt smothering when facing Null. And that puts such a bad taste in everyone's mouth that we can't have that happen again. This is why I was thinking earlier, like, hey, depending how you do on zones, you should just completely remove one of Null's mechanics. So, hey, if we hit 2 million victory points in zone 1, that should remove Null's ability to get 20% speed bar every single time we hit him. Like, that's a great idea, but instead just make a boss that doesn't get this sort of smothering speed stat every time we hit him, because these fights are supposed to go long. They're supposed to be fun. Something like the barrier, theoretically, is okay if we can control Null in such a way where he doesn't have barrier every single second attack. So you might sneak one attack into the barrier, but with the damage cap and with the barrier being 10 million and him refreshing it every single time you take a turn, doesn't really help you very much, right? It's smothering, it's not fun. That's why we all kind of got limited. So those are the type of player controls, damage cap changes that we have to see in the next iteration of Battleworld. But I think they need to go a step further. Because the Null boss fight, there's a lot of cool aspects to it, right? When he calls in symbiotes, that's cool. That feels decent, except that I'm like, oh, it's a symbiote Spider-Man. It's like anti-venom. It's a scream. Like, I fought these guys for 2 years. They blow away like a feather in the wind. Like, it's not really that exciting. Other games have phases. And although Strikeforce has never had phases per se before, I think they have all the tools to make phases really easy. First of all, we all have to accept that whatever boss we're facing in Battleworld shouldn't be the character we play on the other side of Battleworld. The Null boss fight shouldn't be the character that you get to play with when you unlock Null. That would be ridiculous. It'd be stupid. It would trivialize everything else. Makes no sense, right? There should be phases for bosses that work off of whatever the mechanic is. So like the current rage mechanic for Null, instead of him getting 10% speed stat and damage every single time he goes up a rage stat, it should be when he reaches 15 rage stacks, he summons in 2 giant symbiote dragons. If you read the comic books, you know what I'm talking about. And these symbiote dragons, when they're on the field, Null takes 0 damage. You have to take out these dragons before you can start hurting Null again. Kind of a cool little phase transition, right? It could be the next phase transition, the sword, the Necro sword has a mind of its own. It comes out, it starts fighting you. Like, this would be really kind of cool things that they could lean into thematically. And it should cap off with a, hey, when Null gets to 100 charges, he goes enraged. And he gets a bazillion different kinds of buffs, and you're gonna die super quick. You're not really gonna see anything, but maybe there's a cool little animation change that we see on the screen that signifies this, right? Like, you know when Big Time Spider-Man changes his stance or whatever you want to call it, and he looks different? Well, maybe Null, it goes all black and it just kills you. Something thematic, something cool to aspire to see once. I think those would be really, really cool ideas. And I mean, the only way that would work is if there's no damage cap, right? So whatever damage you do in between 0 charges and 100 charges needs to matter, whereas currently it doesn't. And of course, in doing such a thing, like they would need to tweak around null. If say they go charges instead of rages, like charges need to reset every fight, so you're not walking into phase 2, phase 3, whatever the case may be. The boss health, when he dies, maybe that resets the rage stack, so you can play mechanically or theoretically around that with your alliance mates, or everybody has their own null boss that they fight, and it just contributes points to the alliance pool, and that's how we contribute to a leaderboard, a reason to actually push the game, because currently there was zero reason to push the null fight any more than we did. My alliance, a lot of new players, killed the boss 8 times. He ended up with 24 million points. Once again, that's 2 times past what the highest milestone was asking for, which would be cool if there was some sort of leaderboard to compete against, to see how we were measuring up against other alliances, to get cool rewards for our efforts. There needs to be a carrot to chase, is what I'm saying. There needs to be a carrot to chase in everything in this game. Otherwise, we will start losing interest, just like everyone lost interest in War. Just like people are quickly losing interest in Crucible. There needs to be that carrot. So a leaderboard needs to come back, whether that have null shards, like the original leaderboard did, or if it has diamonds for whatever the character of that month they want to put in, that's great. Now, somebody in chat is trolling right now. They are saying leaderboards in 2025. What am I saying? This is a gameplay leaderboard. This is not a spender leaderboard. Auction leaderboards can go away forever, but gameplay leaderboards, I think, are a fun way to see how you measure up against other alliances, to push yourself and your alliance mates as far as you can go and enjoy a lot of fun. I think those are the changes we need to see in Battleworld for it to really kind of start tickling its highest potential. But there's other things I didn't touch on. So what about Spec Ops? Spec Ops can fuck off. Kind of. I say that because at the end of the day, if we do have a gameplay node that is endless, or at least has so many waves we can't realistically beat it, then I just want all of my characters to use against it. I don't really want to do Spec Ops, right? Spec Ops could become an individual basis where we get victory points for doing that, so I don't really have to play the game mode as much. I can just give away my characters, and that helps my alliance. I just don't see the interest in that, and if it's going to be a monthly event instead of a weekly event, I think that, you know, participation in this mode is going to be fun and probably can be expected from your players. So I don't think Spec Ops is super necessary, but definitely it can come back the way it was. It can come back for meaningless points as just an event input. And if it does come back, I would want to see it do something to the boss, right? If you hit, I would want Spec Ops points to be completely separate from victory points. I would want to see them be their own thing, where if we hit a certain marker, our characters get buffs either for future zones or on the boss or throughout the rest of the battle world. Like say, you know, every player that sacrifices a character gets 1 Spec Ops point. If you hit 20 Spec Ops points, then for the rest of the battle world, all your characters get 20% increased stats or something like that. I would want to see it be impactful, but I think Spec Ops can probably just go away if everything else becomes interesting. Scourges. Well, we see a couple of Scourges packs. And if you weren't here for the Apocalypse Saga, you probably go by packs and trials instead, right? Gameplay modifiers, not gameplay mechanic changes. Gameplay modifiers, we see a couple of them on nodes. We see things like Ares and Emma count as Cabal. Butterfly Effect, I believe, is on one of these, where if you are a fortifier character, use your ultimate, you spread your buffs off. I think that they can start putting those more liberally throughout the nodes, especially if it's only going to be a once-a-month activity. I think you could even see some of those come into the boss fight, or different kind of boss fights. That would be really cool, too. Like, what if it worked in such a way where whenever a kill happened, we got energy? We've seen that in different Scourges in the past. So when the symbiotes drop down, if I kill them, I get a bunch of energy. Well, then maybe I can start using my Apocalypse Punch a bunch more. And if there's no damage cap, it should cap that. Well, if the damage cap is proper at 3%, then Apocalypse Punch would do 25 million. So I could time it so that my Apocalypse does his punch, a bunch of symbiotes come down, we kill them, we get energy, we get Apocalypse Punch again. This would be exciting ways to increase the gameplay. So I do think there is still a place for those, but we need to see them make the correct structural changes to the rest of the game mode first. This video went far too long, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment section below, or if you think that there is a much better way to change the current situation of Battleworld for all players to enjoy, let me know in the comment section below. One thing I want to touch on before we go, because a lot of people have been talking about, what about a difficulty 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for Battleworld? I think if the nodes have extra waves and they scale, then that is essentially the same thing as having increased difficulties, right? You're just pushing further waves, but it allows for other players to catch up and get there as well, instead of just everyone kind of progressing at a different spot in time, but around the same sort of timeline, if that makes sense. If you understood that, you're better than me, because I don't understand what I just said. It's okay for you not to do the highest content in this game. It's okay that I can't beat the top 10 people in Crucible. People play the game at different levels, different interests. That's okay. And it's honestly, guys, I know a lot of you are going to be upset for me for saying this. It's okay for those people to be awarded different rewards at the end of the day. I think because we haven't had that, the game has felt more bland than it ever has before. No one feels the need to want to push harder content because the rewards don't justify the push. And that kind of sucks. So now that I've pissed half of you guys off, let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. I know Scopely will be watching this video for sure. But for now, you guys, stay happy, stay healthy, have yourselves a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Should be a word video. Have fun. Bye, everybody.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.